Okay, so we've had a new pair of Beats Solo headphones, and now we have the first ever pair of Beats Solo buds. I like the fact that Beats is focusing on the budget end of the headphone market at the moment. So these are the Beats Solo 4, which I reviewed a few weeks ago, and for the money, they're fantastic. They do the job. They work for a very specific audience, and that audience loves them. Now we have the Beats Solo buds, which have quite a big... Why do they always make noises when I start doing this? They have quite a big job ahead of them because they cost £79.99, and Beats promises the ultimate music listening experience from 80 quid earbuds. Basically, they want to make good sound and great product design available for more people, hence the lower cost and the talk about fantastic sound and all that sort of stuff. All you care about is, have they managed to do that? Before I get into that, just a very quick word from not a sponsor, because this video isn't sponsored, but I do have some fantastic brand partners who help me keep the lights on here. One of them is Brain FM, and Brain FM is basically an app which pipes music and very nice sounding things into your ears to make you more productive. Now, they can't claim to make you more productive, and it may not make you more productive, but for me, it's been absolutely game-changing. Over the last 3 years, I've got to the point now where I cannot work. I cannot do any kind of deep work like writing or scripting or anything where I need to really lock into whatever I'm doing without Brain FM. I'm not going to say anything else about Brain FM because you'll get annoyed about it and go somewhere else. However, if you are curious, there's a link down below. If you click that link, I get a kickback, just so you know. Well, give it a go. Okay, let's get into the specs and the pricing of the Beats Solo buds. The first thing to mention is that they use a proprietary Beats chip. They don't use the Apple whatever it is chip. Now that means two things. Firstly, they are cross-platform, so you can use them on both iOS and Android. And secondly, because they don't have the H chip, they don't have the automatic device switching between your Mac and your iPhone and your other Apple devices. It's worth bearing that in mind. They have 8.2mm dual element transducers, they're capable of spatial audio, they have passive noise isolation, 18 hours of battery life with a bit of a caveat which I'll come on to in a moment. A 5-minute charge will give you 1 hour of playback, and they're compatible with one-touch pairing for iOS and Android, and Find My Device on both platforms. They've got Bluetooth 5.3 with multi-point pairing, custom designed mics for calls, 4 sizes of silicone ear tips, and they come in one of 4 colours. Matte black, Arctic purple, transparent red, which looks very nice, and storm grey, which is the version that I have here. And as mentioned earlier, they cost £79.99 in the UK, and you can buy them now. Design, comfort and convenience, 3 very important aspects of any type of earbud. The first thing to talk about is the case. Now this is not a charging case. It doesn't have a battery inside. You do charge the earbuds through it, but you don't put the earbuds back into here and get more time on your earbuds because there's no battery in here. That said, the fact we have 18 hours from these tiny little things is enough for most people. 18 hours isn't that far off some of the charging case equipped earbuds that I've used. It's very, very impressive. It does mean that the case itself is absolutely tiny. Look at it. This is the smallest earbud case I think I've ever used. You can slip it into any bag, any pocket, any little nook and cranny just to take it with you. There's a lot to be said for just taking a pair of these on your travels just because they are so small. The case itself is well made. If you know me, you know that I'm absolutely obsessed with this sort of stuff when it comes to earbud cases, and they've done a good job. Beats do make very nice gear. It feels robust. It's plastic obviously, but the plastic is pretty nice feeling. That is nice and satisfying as well. I think this could take a bit of stick. The one thing to bear in mind is that neither the case nor the earbuds are waterproof, or that they don't have a water resistance rating. That's a bit of a shame. That does mean that you do think twice about when you're using them. That said, how many people do you see walking around in the streets with a pair of AirPods Max in the pouring rain? So I don't really think people care about that, and I think a lot of these earbuds have a certain amount of water resistance built into them, even if it's not official. Don't take my word for that, please. They can probably withstand a few showers and a couple of sweaty sessions in the gym. I've done both of those things and they still work fine. Just going back to the case for a second, it doesn't have any kind of visual indication for charging, for battery level, for pairing. You have to rely on these little noises that it makes. So for instance, if I plug in my USB-C cable, the whole desk nearly went then. It makes a little cute noise, but I am used to seeing a little, like having like a little LED on there to tell me what's going on. You can't really fault that because all of that gubbins has gone to make it this small. There's also no pairing button on here, which doesn't really matter because you've got the instant pairing with iOS and Android. But if you do want to manually pair them for some reason, you just hold one of the buttons on here and it puts it into pairing mode basically. So yeah, happy days. In terms of the bud design, they're stemless, which isn't my favorite thing in the world. I like to have little things here to play with and readjust my earbuds if I need to. That said, these are incredibly comfy. Beats tells us that they've used 10 years worth of research and development to make these as comfy and as wide fitting as possible. As soon as you put these in your ear, and they're very easy to put in. There's certain stemless buds which are very tricky to get in. These just go in very naturally. Onto controls, and we have physical buttons on both of these. There's no touch controls, and they're well designed. You have to give them a little bit of force, but not too much, to kind of push the thing too far into your ear. So they seem to be perfectly weighted. And yes, you can customize what they do in the Beats app. Big thumbs up for whoever got the proper button over the line. However, what you care about is what these things sound like. The Beats Solo Buds use the same 8.2mm transducer that you find in the more expensive Beats Studio Buds Plus, which sounds like a good thing. To a degree, it is. There's a couple of caveats here. Firstly, you can't EQ these earbuds. So this is basically what Beats wants these to sound like, and the first thing to say is the bass is there, it goes deep, it's not overpowering, which is nice. The top end is fine as well, it's fairly sparkly and does the job. For me, the mid-range is just a bit boosted. It's a bit too present, basically, which is it's a very personal thing. All opinions on the sound or audio performance of a pair of earbuds or headphones is a very subjective thing. I always say that. And for me, I prefer a scooped mid-range. These definitely don't have that. And I think the reason for that is that Beats wants plenty of volume with these, and these are a very loud pair of earbuds. Basically, the Beats Solo Buds are made for people who don't want to dive into the EQ. They just want to pick these things up and listen to their music and have it pumping. And when I say pumping, again, I don't mean loads of bass, I mean the entire song is just pumping. That makes these a decent pair of gym earbuds if you don't take into account the lack of a waterproof rating, but we've covered that. Equally, if you just work in very noisy environments, or you're doing a lot of walking through streets and train stations, and you want just enough volume there to really hear what you're listening to, then they work very well in those scenarios. And they're great for podcasts. If you mainly listen to spoken stuff, so podcasts or audiobooks, these perform very well. The fact they have spatial audio is a fantastic thing. If you're not aware, that basically means these can play back Dolby Atmos stuff, and if you're sitting listening to something and you move your head to one side, the audio seems to stay over here, so it gives you this kind of massive soundstage kind of thing going on. The spatial audio is very quickly becoming a standard feature on most earbuds, most new earbuds and headphones, so it's not a differentiator at all. It's just nice it's there. Noise cancellation, they don't have it. Well, they don't have active noise cancellation. What they do have is passive noise isolation, which basically means when you put them in your ears, thanks to the seal of these little tips, even now, the room has gone very quiet. I'm probably shouting a little bit. It doesn't deal with noisy environments where you have a lot of very noisy kind of binging and banging and low rumbles of trains and things. It's not going to cut that stuff out like active noise cancellation does, but it does a very good job of making the world slightly disappear. As for taking telephone calls, they work really well. I never spend long on this section of these reviews, which I know some people don't like. I haven't used a pair of headphones or earbuds recently, or ever, I don't think, where my test calls haven't worked. I can hear the other person, they can hear me. The only thing to mention is that they don't have beam-forming mics, which might have a slight impact on the quality of your voice for the other person, maybe, I don't know, but my test calls worked absolutely fine. There is just one question remaining. Why would you buy these when these are just 100 quid more? Let's keep this really simple. What do you get if you spend £100 more on the Beats Studio Buds Plus? Firstly, you get a charging case, which is nice because that gives you up to 36 hours of battery life. You get active noise cancellation, which again is nice, and it will deal with lots of different types of environment much better than these. They also have those beam forming mics that I just spoke about. They have IPX4 water resistance, which means you don't have to worry about getting them wet or taking them to the gym. And to my ears, they do sound better. So that's what you gain, but what do you lose if you buy these over these? Firstly, that tiny case. There's no competition here. The Beats Solo buds are the most convenient buds I've ever used when it comes to carrying them around. Secondly, you lose 100 quid. You don't lose it, but you spend 100 quid that you could have saved if you bought these. In this complicated world, simplicity sometimes wins. That said, if you want ANC and beam forming mics and just the knowledge that you're getting the best Beats buds, then buy these. And this brings me to my inevitable conclusion about the Beats Solo buds. They don't sound the best, they don't have that official IP rating, you can't EQ them, which is it's a bit annoying for someone like me, but in fairness, I'm probably not the target market for these. These are for people who don't want to spend a fortune on earbuds, who want a pair that you can just chuck into your bag, chuck into your pocket, into any little tiny receptacle and not worry about. The most important thing is, they're worth the money. There's a lot to be said for having a pair of these in your bag when you're traveling. I'm doing loads of traveling at the moment and they're going to stay in my bag. However, if you think the Beats Studio Buds Plus are the ones to go for, keep watching for a link to my full review.